What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 145 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed Cantina Queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author, sometimes a returning guest, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book that you finished. Today's episode features a chat with Kate Khavari talking about her book, A Botanist's Guide to Tradition and Treachery. That book is available now and is the fifth book in a series of Saffron Everleigh Mysteries. And I've never read the first four, and I've read number 5, and it's so easy to read that as a standalone. And I enjoyed meeting Saffron and meeting Alexander and all of our other characters. A good mystery is always fun. And Kate was so fun to talk to about it. I'm talking about kind of pieces of history that maybe not a lot of readers or people in general know about. And so it's kind of cool to exchange information that way and talk about the setting that she wrote his historical fiction on. Some spoilers might pop up in these conversations, but the episode is more enjoyable if you've read the book anyway. So if you don't know why I have very strong feelings about a certain character in this book, hit pause, add this episode to your playlists, and go pick up a copy of A Botanist's Guide to Tradition and Treachery. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I am saying what the fuck to the author for making me feel things. Just please be sure to be mindful around listening ears. Books coming out this week, June 30th, For Janes by Marion Lee. And yes, she is going to be an upcoming guest. So go ahead and pick up a copy of For Janes and then stay tuned for the interview with Marion. And without further ado, get ready, grab your favorite drink. Here is Kate. Today we've got Kate Khavari. We're talking about her book, A Botanist's Guide to Tradition and Treachery. That is Saffron Everleigh, book number 5. This is the only one I've read, though. I loved it. It was very easy to follow along without knowing much anything else. Kate, this book was super fun. I love a good suspense thriller mystery whodunit, and Saffron is such a character. Like, I would love for her to just be on my side no matter what. She's a force to be reckoned with. I love her as a protagonist, and Alexander's super dreamy. And so I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper into everything you had going on in this book.
So this is set in 1924, and Saffron is a botanist, and this is her first ever expedition. So she and her fiance Alexander, also a scientist, they're just nerds in love. They're off on an expedition to Smyrna, Turkey. That's modern day Izmir. Back then it was Smyrna. And they're going to dig up some ancient ruins. And Saffron is a botanist, and so she's going to be looking at like ancient botanicals, and she's imagining this like grand adventure, a little romantic with her fiance, and pretty much it's just like back to back misogynist jerks trying to sabotage her. We have like, falling ruins, and there's like snake involved, and then the research assistant, very like earnest, nice young man, ends up dead. And everyone on the expedition team turns to the poisons expert, Saffron, because she obviously did it. And so this book is the mystery of who killed the research assistant and why, and how can we prove Saffron didn't do it. I love the trope of like eventually, I feel like it happens in all long running series that eventually the sleuth is going to be targeted as the bad guy. And so I loved getting to put Saffron through the ringer and like, take away some of her ability to investigate. Like she gets arrested in this book. And so she's trapped away from the clues and from the suspects for a while. So I don't know. I thought it was fun. I'm glad that you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, and I did because I like I think just like the storytelling of a murder mystery or a who, it's not necessarily like a who done it, but she's amateur sleuth, right? And there's just something special about a woman who's like, as the reader, we take her competence like for what it is. At least for me, I understood, yeah, she's like experienced and she's obviously, she's a woman in STEM, but she's also in 1920s London where she's just going through it in terms of gaining the respect and having to be one of the only women in the room, let alone like one of the women in the room in science actually participating and lending her expertise, let alone all together. And it's just like, some of what she was going through was like, dude, fuck Clark. Like, I was like, and even then, as we get to it, there was a moment where I was like, girl, why are you still engaging with him? Ignore him, like walk away. She just
Mhm.
kept feeding into like,
I
she
know.
just kept giving him ammo. And it's like just a list of things where it's like, I would probably follow her into battle, but I would also be like, girl, let it go.
Yeah.
Like, let
Yeah.
it go.
That is her problem, is that she's not like a people pleaser, but she's really learned through her education and then her work at the university that if she wants to be like included, that she has to play ball. So like she can't just be like whatever, dude, because then nobody would tell her anything. She wouldn't be involved in anything. So she wants to like
Yeah.
be involved,
She
you know,
really
it just
does
and
have
it
to, because she does have to like do that for herself. She has to advocate
yeah.
for herself.
Yeah. And she's learned that she can't just be like sassy right back all the time, because then they'll just ignore her and that's almost worse
Yeah.
in some ways. So she can't win. She can't
She
win in
really,
this
yeah.
scenario.
Because even then, it's like she could have, even as we see her getting picked on, and it's it is like a double-edged sword because her fiance wants to be in her corner or stick up for her, and there is like, yeah, he does have respect because he's a man, but also she doesn't want him to fight her battles for her, and he's struggling with that too. And I just love like how he finds a way to still do his part a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think that this is a spoiler, but he totally like beats Clark like later in the book.
Even
Clark
first, I was
certainly
telling him when
deserves it.
he beat him at cards, but then, like,
Yeah.
he's like, "What, you took all his money?" He's like, "He's just a little bit." But, like, yes, what you're talking about is later because I write notes and stuff, and I was like, "Yes, Alex. Yes, Alexander." But I even then before that, I was like, "Clark, shut the fuck up. Like, don't like, why are you still talking?"
I know. So in the other books of like their relationship arc, her and Alexander, is like him figuring out that he can't tell her what to do because she doesn't like that and she won't listen to him. Second, she is going to do what she feels is right, no matter what. He can say like, don't like do stuff for this investigation, like it's not safe, and she's like, it's not safe for anybody who's investigating it. It's not any more dangerous for me. And so this book, because this is book 5, this is him having grown a lot through the other books. So he has like finally figured out that like he has to let Saffron figure it out. But at the same time, he does have these moments of like, what am I doing? Like, this is my love, this is my fiance, and I'm just like letting her
Yeah, he goes through so much
get like
guilt,
picked
and
on.
yeah. He's like, "I
Yeah,
should
but
have
I
done
felt like
this.
that
Why
was
didn't I do this?"
realistic.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's not realistic for him to like having gone through these stages of learning about how they can be together. It's not realistic for him to just like immediately be perfect at it. And so that was like part of his growth in this book, is like figuring out where is that real line and that real boundary, because he feels like in this book he fails
Yeah, I
even
wanna
after beating up
explore
Clark.
that, like, about the growth just for me, for someone who hasn't read the first 4. So, I've read a couple series where it does follow, like, one couple, but I think
Mhm.
the beauty of this is, like, with Amateur Sleuth is, like, she could have that romantic interest, and they can grow as a couple, but also we're kind of that's, like, a little subplot of everything
Mhm.
because she's mostly, like, just trying to live her ambitions, trying to chase her goals, and then she ends up getting like in finds herself in trouble almost, but she finds trouble and she's like, wait a second. And so I thought I want to explore like developing these characters together and separately. Especially also it's because it's in third person POV, and I feel like that gives you a little bit more freedom, like just not focusing on one first person limited point of view, and then you're still giving the readers the ability to jump around a little bit and find out information that not everybody knows yet. So I kind of want to just explore like how like a big picture things is like how did that go for you? Because and I'm gonna ramble on a bunch because also side question is this, have you written any other books? I'm sorry if I didn't check up on that. Have you written any other books besides these 5, this series?
I've written a bunch of other books. They're all fantasy books,
Okay.
but none of them are out yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
that's good to know.
I've done all the different kinds of POVs and perspectives. Like my favorite, I think, is first person.
Yeah.
because it allows you to get really down deep in their head, in their voice. But the Saffron Everleigh Mysteries always felt right in third person, because I wanted to get the chance to unveil different pieces of information to different characters. Because how Saffron reacts to a certain piece of information is different from how Alexander does. And then it also gives you the opportunity to build up and layer what is happening, especially like at the climax of the book. So like in all of the books, it ends up being we're both like whoever is the POV that we're dealing with. Some books have two, like this one, some books have three. I think the first book had maybe four actually. But we're layering the points of view to build up the narrative and really get it moving and get readers excited to see how this story goes. But yeah, Saffron has always felt right in this third person. It gives like just a slight like distance for the reader that it really, especially because it is historical, it feels right to me for whatever reason.
Yeah, and then how did I don't know if, like, writing a 5th book in a series and then having them because I was, like, reading the summaries or the excerpts from the first 4, and it's, like, for me, not reading them, but just reading the excerpts, I could see, oh, there's, like, a budding romance, and then, oh, they
Mhm.
finally, like, take it to the next step, and I'm like, "Okay, now because I'm meeting them, they're already engaged." And so
Mhm.
I wanna explore, like, how you develop their relationship, how you develop them as characters separately, feeding off of each other in their individual growth, and also, like, was there anything planned? Did anything change? Did you just, like, let them tell you what to write?
The way that I got started writing at all was by binge reading historical mystery series.
Nice.
And a lot of those series were very long running, like 15 books or more. And the thing that always got me is that at some point in these stories, the characters really plateaued in terms of growth. Like they were
Sure.
just the same, especially like once characters got together. I feel like people say that a lot that when the characters get together, like on TV shows or whatever, it's boring then because like
There
that's
is,
what I
I
was
get
watching
that,
it for.
yeah.
So I when I was a baby writer and knew absolutely nothing about craft or how to even construct a mystery or anything, I knew that was something I didn't want. And so some of my very first bits of planning for the whole series was what is the lesson that they learn individually in each book? And how does that reflect and enhance how their relationship grows and changes? So, like, sorry, spoilers for anyone who wants to read the series. You're going to get to book two and you're going to meet somebody named Lee and you're going to love him. But I'm sorry, Alexander and Saffron have always been endgame. There is never any real chance for anybody else. Sorry, Lee lovers. I love him too.
You're like, "I
But it
get
was
it."
always going to be them. And so their growth from book to book has always been leading to that. So Saffron goes from somebody who like hides people, difficult people in closets and bathrooms in the first book to now she is like stepping up to Clark and getting right back in his face when he's a jerk to her
Yeah.
in book 5. And following that, Alexander in the first book is this whirlwind girl. She gives a little bit like manic pixie dream girl, maybe a little bit. Who is this girl like dragging me along in her investigations to him being side by side with her investigating and also once she's arrested stepping up and doing his own investigation on her behalf. So we get a lot of transformation and growth there. One thing I think is really interesting particularly about Alexander is that he's a little bit older than Saffron and he fought in the Great War, so he's a
Okay.
veteran of World War I. And so his injury that he suffered, he got hit by a grenade when he was in the war. And so he like had a concussion and his back was messed up and he has burns and half of his body is covered in scars. And I had to think about what that did to him. Because when I'm writing the first book, he has anxiety, he struggles with control issues at times, also explains a lot about how their relationship has grown and changed. But I had to figure out who he was before the war
Mhm.
to get to this point now because he had shell shock, he struggled with addiction briefly, and then he eventually has come to be this like very controlled kind of guy in the first book. So figuring out that journey before the books even started was really important and really informed a lot of how I treated his growth. And I'm very surprised, like thinking about this now, that like little baby Kate writer knew to do that, because it ended up being really important for, I think, why I hope this series continues to be engaging. And it's not just like, okay, another mystery, but there's a new mystery, and that mystery is going to challenge them and force them to grow as individuals and together throughout this series.
Yeah, I love that. Like an MMC who is maybe a little stoic, very serious. He's maybe no nonsense. And then along comes this love interest who just he's like perplexed by, and who like he's just in unfamiliar territory. He does not know what to do with this person, and he's not expecting certain feelings to come out of spending so much time with someone who they cannot explain, they cannot. So I love that idea, and just seeing how Alexander is now, that makes me even more excited to potentially start from book 1 and then see how that goes and leads up to book 5, because I don't know, I don't know if I have a type, but I think I have a situation. Like I love a situation where these ruthless, like self-assured people. It could even be like a female character too, where they're just
Mhm.
so sure of themselves, their experience, their hot shit, and then they're thrown into unfamiliar territory where they're so out of their element. They don't know what to
Mhm.
do. They haven't done any of this before. And so it's like they get humbled a little bit. They got to learn. They got to start maybe from square one. And I think just some of that, like maybe that trope or subtrope, I something about it just like gets me, and it just makes me giggle, and it makes the whole situation more interesting. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Alexander definitely, like, part of how he changed after his like experience in the war is that he was not impetuous, impulsive kind of guy. He's an Aries, so he's very low action man. And then the war comes and he gets really hurt and he deals with all this physical and mental trauma. And then he kind of swings very far in the opposite direction, highly controlled, highly structured, hates mess. And so Saffron has forced him back into the middle of like,
Yeah.
chaos is okay sometimes.
Yeah, like helping him get back there, and or just find himself like where he would be at peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he wants to grow to be a little bit like less impulsive. You know what I mean? Like depending on what he wants, but I feel like he definitely deserves to let loose and to someone to
Smash
reassure.
some faces in
Yeah.
this book.
I was like, it's like some of my notes were just like he had it coming. I was just like, because I'm just thinking here, because I wanted to punch Clark in the face early on, and then I was like, Saffron, what are you like? Why do you keep engaging with him? You're just kept giving him more ammo, and then eventually when Alex, he just kept like asking for it. He's like, why are you still talking? Like, get with the program.
Mhm.
Like, shut the fuck up. And then I was like, okay, he had it coming. I was like, he had it coming. It was maybe that's the part of the toxic, like over romantically toxic. Maybe that's the part that I like. It's like maybe not in real life, but definitely that's a red flag. And even Nick, he's a character from a previous book, correct? Like,
Mhm.
and even when he goes on the page, he like demands attention. I can already sense that he's like, again, like self-assured. He knows everything. He's got more tricks up his sleeve. He's very confident, and he's definitely someone you want on your side. You don't want to be under, you don't want to be the target of anything he's got
Mhm.
going on. And so, but he was just sitting there like, dude, why are you still saying these things to him about his wife to his face? So I love some of those moments in there, because it's just like, I guess that's when like things start rolling, because it's a little slower pace, but then when things start going, it's like, okay, we need answers and we're gonna find this out. And then the stakes are high. I'm so worried about my wife, and it's because of you, and you are still not. You still don't care. You're still egging me on. And I was just like, do it. I'm like, Alexander, do it. So that was hot. That was awesome though. It was just like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I kind of want to piggyback also on one of the things that I love asking authors is about the research. I'm sure you like so many hours of research across the 5 books because like I love historical fictions in general. I think I just enjoy it makes me feel smart, maybe a little bit smarter when I'm finished reading them, but also it's just very interesting because it's like the English literature person in me is like, why wouldn't you find history like interesting? Because it's then I majored in English in college, so it was like a lot of that went hand in hand. Like a lot of
Mhm.
the classics, a lot of books were commentary on the current events. So it's really cool to see that component of it, but then also just make it creative and you have like take creative liberties with something that really happened because I did read a book and I interviewed the author about a book about Smyrna, about that the whole war, the fire that
Mhm.
happened. It's called The Silence of Scheherazade, which was super interesting because Scheherazade was the woman who was narrating who's A Thousand and One Nights. Uh
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Yes, and so that was the title of the book, and so I learned so much reading that book, but yeah, it was basically, like, from the point of view of, like, I think 3 or 4 different women from those different backgrounds during the war, during and then leading up to that fire. So, like,
Ooh,
the
that's
last
fascinating. I'm literally gonna write that down
Yeah,
because I
The Silence
definitely
of
need
Scheherazade.
to know about that.
Yeah, it's let me see, it is in my bookshelf, but it might be covered by, like, a bunch of crap that I have. Oh, Daphne Suman, I think was her name. The Silence
Yeah.
Yeah, The Silence of Scheherazade. It was good, and yeah, especially if you like historical fiction and multi-point of
Yes,
views.
that's so cool.
Yeah. And I
Wow, okay,
was
I'm definitely gonna have to look at that.
yeah, I recommend it for sure, if it's up your alley. So, but yeah, that a lot of that, like, came kind of flooding back, and it just reminded me, I was like, "Okay, I'm glad that I kinda have a little bit of background knowledge via another historical fiction, because then I was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
I get the gist of, like, just the cultural because, like, the political implications and the post-war implications and, like, basically how these, people who were either ostracized or forced out of their homeland and their buildings and their way of life is, like, decimated, and then because we see it in multiple characters and their actions of they because of their experiences in those different parts of whichever side they were on, we see that in their actions. So it also just added to that for my experience personally as a reader to kind of know that, and that's why I think like just kind of like the different layers of it because and so I want to explore that too of how just part of the research bit, and also just because there anything that stood out to you that you were surprised to learn? Like, I'm like, maybe you're surprised you find something that you're
Mm.
fascinated to learn every time you write a book, but, like, for this one,
Yeah, yeah. The way I always begin, like, preparation for writing any of these books is definitely, like, doing a quick check of, like, where and when we're writing this story. So this one was, quite easy because, it's a very specific, sorry, the thing has bothered me. It's a very specific thing where you're looking at a single city in 1 month. So I'm
yeah.
looking at, like, what is actually happening in this specific, like, month of Saffron and Alexander being there and the mystery happening. And that's easier to do when the books are set, like, in London, because I can go on Wikipedia and it will literally give me a list of important things happening in England and Europe in November 1924. This city doing it in Smyrna was different because I didn't have the ability to look that up. I could and tried looking at newspapers, but I ran into several problems, mostly being I am not fluent in any of the languages that were being published in the city or even like in the country. Because you had you have obviously like the Turkish language, which and you're like, okay, well just put it into like Google Translate. It was not written in like the same characters that it's written in now. It was written in
Sure.
Arabic characters back then. And they switched, I don't know when they switched, but it was Turkish was still written in Arabic characters back then. And so like trying to translate it would not work.
Yeah.
I was looking at a map one time and it was like in French. And I'm like, okay, that's easy. Just show it to Google Translate,
Yeah.
find the French words. It did not want to do it. It gave me like a couple of words and it was just not very helpful. So finding information about Smyrna was challenging. And I was really lucky to find there is, and you might know because of The Silence of Scheherazade, how to pronounce, is it Levantine, Levantine? I don't know how to
It's
say it.
Levantine, but like that's how I read it. I didn't listen to it audiobooks. But no, I know what you're talking about because I know I'm trying to like I was just Googling the book, so I was like reacquainting myself and it's like, yeah, that's one of the points of view is a person Levantine background. Yeah.
Yes, so the Levantine Heritage Foundation, I don't know if they're like centered in Smyrna or they're just the entire like former Ottoman Empire or what, but they had so much information, like historical maps. And there's a guy who like published his own map of like where this fire took place in Smyrna. And that was what I used. That was
Okay.
how I figured out where the fire was. So the background on the fire for anyone who doesn't know, which is probably most people, I'm amazed that you've ever heard of it because no one has ever heard of this. So
Yeah.
the Ottoman Empire collapses. Turkey forms itself as a new country in like 1922. Pretty much immediately goes to war with Turkey, and I believe it was over land, but that's my own understanding. So they fight over land. Smyrna is on the Aegean coast facing Greece, very close by. Greek soldiers come in through Smyrna. And then, as a part of their like defeat and eventual retreat, as the Greek soldiers are leaving the city of Smyrna, it catches on fire. And I'm very curious to see what opinion you formed from that book, what perspectives were offered. My understanding is that the Turks were like, the Greeks did this as they're leaving. They're setting the place on fire as like revenge or whatever. And then the Greeks are like, the Turks did it to frame us and to like turn even more public opinion against us.
So from what I remember, and I read this book. Oh my God, when did it release? It was like, yeah, like 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. So that's when I read it. But it's so funny how much that certain books stick with you or they like trigger something in your brain where you're like, wait,
Mhm.
I know that word or I
I
know
know
that place,
something.
I know that history. So I think because it follows like points of view from the people, I think from what I remember, they didn't know because they were like fearing for their lives and they were worried about escaping and
Yeah, there's
surviving.
bigger fish to fry than
Yeah, there were
whose fault it
more
was.
like, because like just some of the scenes that were described, I think that's what stood out most rather than, "Wait a second, how did this happen?" I think it was just
Mhm.
like from a lot of the points of view were like, "Oh, all of a sudden this was happening because it was like there was current conflict happening. There's descriptions of like the soldiers and the conflict at that time, and so I just got the impression that they had no idea with each point of view, they were just like, "Oh shit," and they were just running and running, and then it like to escape, and then it like they're trying to get to the port, to the
Mhm.
boats, and then there was a scene where like a woman she has her child, her baby, and she doesn't get to the boat, but she tries throwing her child
Oh no.
so someone to get yeah, and it wasn't like a baby, but it was like maybe a toddler, but I'm just like I that's when I was like, "Okay, no, like this." That's where I get into it. It's like where I can't because I have like 2 little boys, and so I'm just thinking of it as a mother's point of view. I'm like, "Oh my god," like, I that's when it gets to, like, I can't imagine that's when I get spiraling where I'm like, "I can't imagine being in that position. I don't know what I would do." And it just brings me back to that notion of in any, like, kind of high stakes disaster situation where a person is trying to survive for themselves and their children, that's when I kinda get in my own head and I'm like, "Oh, like, this" like, that's where when I start getting in my feels. So that's one of the things,
Mhm.
like, I remember, like, where it really just started hitting a little bit more intensely, and, it was yeah, so to answer your question, it was there were more powerful, like, scenery going on of the time, like, what these characters and their families were dealing with in the moment, but I from what I remember, I think I got the impression that it wasn't really explored. It was just like,
Mhm.
"Oh, like, we saw this and we saw this, and then so we're trying to do this," and that's kind of
Yeah.
like how it yeah.
We're 100 years later and there is no, like,
Yeah.
officially accepted conclusion of, like, whose
Wow.
responsibility was it? at least not that I could find.
From when you
I'm
were
sure that
researching for this book and
if
you
you were
still
like a Turkish person who could
right.
read things like written in Turkish and like
Yeah.
things
Or if
like
you
that,
could
I'm
read
sure you
Arabic
could find an
even,
answer
like
better. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But and like that piece of it and learning about that and how it really changed not only the city of Smyrna, but also the entire country, because in part as a result of this, um, the Turks exiled the Greeks from Turkey. And there's a huge Greek population at that point in Turkey. And also as a result, the Greeks exiled their Turks back to Turkey, or just out. I didn't have to go back to Turkey, but Smyrna in particular had a huge Greek population. So not only is this city half destroyed, but you also have like almost half of this city leave because 40% of this city was Greek at that
That's so
point.
wild.
So this is 2 years later. I could not find a whole lot of information about how much had been rebuilt or cleared away, how many people were living in the city after that. But I did my best with the information that I could have. But it made for like a really interesting place, just like full of conflict.
Recovering from all that, like the
Yeah, like
aftermath.
recovering
Yeah.
from that and like what it did to the people. And you mentioned some of the characters talk about it a little bit. I have a Christian girl who talks about how it's difficult for her to get work as a Christian because at that point the country was majority Muslim, and especially after the exile of the Greeks. And then the police inspector that Saffron is not on good terms with gives her this big lecture about Turkish culture and how his country is trying to figure out if they're going to be more Turkish or if they're going to be more Western. Like that was literally like 6 hours of research to write that like
Wow, I
three
can't
lines of
imagine the
text.
rabbit hole you found yourself
Yeah, I found a
down.
really incredible paper from, I think it was published through the University of Istanbul, that went through like centuries of the development of Ottoman culture. And the very end was like 1880 until like the disillusionment of the Ottoman Empire. And so that's the part that I read. But it was so cool to see just like a glimpse into this culture and then try to extrapolate from that what it would have been like in 1922 when they are not the Ottoman Empire anymore. And
Yeah.
their people, the Ottoman Empire is not like the Turkish people and that's it. It is a huge mixture
Yeah.
of all different kinds of like cultures and religions and ethnicities, even. And so just like figuring that out and how to express that faithfully was really interesting. I don't know if I pulled it off. I did. I'm so lucky I had a Turkish sensitivity reader. My husband's
Perfect.
coworker happens to be not only Turkish, but incredibly nice
Oh,
and
yeah.
was willing to read the book and let me know if
That's
I got
important,
anything
important
wrong.
combination, yeah.
Yes, very generous with her time. She also gave me some great tips about how to write their food. And so that's why
Nice.
Saffron has a feast in
I was
the book.
gonna say, I will yeah, that's another bone I have to pick with you, or no, actually, maybe the only bone I have to pick with you is, like, making my mouth water a little bit while I
Yeah,
was reading,
sorry.
like, because it was I feel like that's also one of my favorite parts about reading, just different time periods and different regions than what I know, because I think that's and then when it's done well, it's, like it's really cool, and it adds, like, another special layer to it. So what do you if you're saying to this day, like, you couldn't really find anything that was definitive from what you've researched, what do you think did the fire?
I think it doesn't matter. For me personally, as a person now like interested in this history and has some investment in it just from like an interest perspective. Like I'm not Turkish, I'm not Greek, so I don't have a thing there. I think it really matters like if today there was a way that we could go back and pinpoint exactly what happened. It it really shaped the relationship between Greece and Turkey for a really long time. This idea of like their conflict and the responsibility for this destruction and like
Yeah.
I don't think it would matter
I
today if we
I
could
could see
figure it
that
out.
if I would say that, like, the Greeks did it, because for me, I'm thinking, like, why would the Turks destroy their own way of, like, their living situation and also their mode of international trade and selling and buying, like that's like their income. That's a big part of their economy. So I think that's just my logic kind of like spinning wheels in my brain where it's like, why would they do that to themselves just for the sake of blaming another country? But then again, I don't have all this background until the years leading up to it. Because like there could be like, it's almost like if you go on social media and you this one clip and you're like, what happened before that? You feel like we're supposed to be on someone's side. What's the context here? So like that's just what I'm using logic, and I'm like, why would they fuck up their own economy just to blame blame a group of people? But I'm like, but then again on the other side, it's like they were being oppressed, right? Like by the Greeks essentially. And
I think that's like the thing that I don't think most people realize about what research is like for these books. If you're writing about a single year, a single month, a single week, whatever, it's not just what's happening in that week or month or year. It is all that came before it. And then also tempering that with like our knowledge of what came after. So like when I was researching about like the Turkish culture stuff, my husband kept being like, okay, so like, is Ataturk there? Like, what are these laws that he's like putting into effect? And I'm like, that's not yet. That's like 5 years after this, or like 6 years after this. So it was really interesting figuring out how to make sure I didn't imply anything that was coming
sure.
next.
So then why did you
For
decide to
Turkey.
choose that for her excavation, her expedition? Why did like was that just really common for like people in her
No,
field to
it like absolutely, it was just like a really random decision. When I started writing this series, I was teaching. And so I started
Oh
writing
my
this
God, wait,
series
sorry.
in like,
What subject do you teach and what grade?
I taught 5th grade reading, writing, and social studies.
Bless you. That's
Yes,
a
I
hard
actually
grade,
ended
and
up
that's
loving it. It
yeah,
was
good. No,
really
that's
hard
awesome.
at first, but I ended up really loving it,
That's
especially
awesome.
because and this is also like so funny. I don't actually like history. Like if you came up to me and said, "What is your favorite subjects?" History would be pretty far down the list because of the way that we're taught it, right? So
Sure.
like history is so boring when you're taught it in school. It's lists of names and battles and
I think
like
that's why I
moving
love like
lines on a
your
thing.
stories where it's like, okay, put it into something that's interesting.
Yes, that's exactly it. So when I got that job and I was told, okay, you're going to teach social studies, I'm like, what? I don't want to do that. That's going to be so boring. But it ended up being the best part of the job because in order to teach it and get the kids interested in it, I had to be interested in it. And so
Yeah.
it was always a test of like, how can I make this relevant? How can I bring out the story in it? As opposed to just like, this is the date and this is the time and this is the people. It's so boring. So like figuring out the story of like, what it was American history. What is the story of America? That was a
Very
very interesting
biased. I was gonna say, like,
it
we could
was.
go
It
on a
was
whole
a very
tangent off of
interesting
that.
conversation.
Yeah.
But it made me really think more about history and the way that it all like comes together was very interesting. I totally forgot why I even said
Oh,
that.
oh no. I think I
Um,
was asking about like your research process and kind of like what made you choose.
yes. Okay. So I was teaching. I had summers off. I got the idea to write these books, just the first book at the end of April. And by the time summer started at the end of May, because I live in Texas and it's the end of May is when our summer starts, I was like off on the races. It was like somebody had opened a fire hydrant, all the ideas were coming out. So by the end of that summer, I had written the first 4 books and half of this book. And so this is in 2018. I had no inkling that these were ever going to be published at all. And so
That's
past Kate just
very
took this
quick
pace.
to
Yes, it
like
was
pump all
insane.
that out. You were just
It was
like
insane.
you
I
were
will forever be chasing that high because it was like truly incredible. Because it was like 10 to 12 hours a day. I had no kids at that point. I had no work because it was
Oh
summer. And so
yeah,
I'm just like at
yeah.
my
There you go.
computer
What
for
else are you gonna do
hours.
other than just write
It was
5 books?
amazing.
Like what?
It was amazing. I know. Who needs to relax when you can write 5 books?
Oh my God.
But I chose it because I had been to Turkey. I went to Turkey
Okay.
when I was 19. I loved it. Formative years,
Mhm.
romantic vision of my 19-year-old self. I loved it. I thought it was so cool and amazing. And I felt like I could write about it. I had that experience. But also, like, Smyrna has crazy history, like this more recent history we just talked about, but like it changed hands. Anybody who was in that region at one point owned Smyrna.
Wow.
Or at least put hands on it, right? So like the Romans, the Greeks, the Byzantines, Lydians, like anyone who was in that area did something with Smyrna. And so it has like literally like layers and layers of history. All the way back, I think I say this in the author's note, all the way back to like the Bronze Age. They recently found like in 2010 that there's a Bronze Age settlement really near where Saffron's hotel was. It just ended up being a place that I'm like, okay, like even Saffron, who studies botany, can find something here to look at. So I have her studying like urns that they find in the ancient marketplace. She didn't do much with them because she gets accused of murder,
I know,
but
right? But
she had a reason to be there.
I do love Banks, like kind of
I
Alexander's
love
like
Banks.
homie, like
Yeah, the
where
buddies.
he had like sympathy towards Saffron too, where he's like, yeah, I got you a little bit. But I loved, while when they were planning like the whole, I know it's definitely a pivot, but when they were planning the whole like setup and everything, and he was like, absolutely not. Like, what are you doing? You're not taking this. Like, it was a whole thing with him, and I loved it. I loved like seeing him like so flustered and putting his foot down and being like his expert self and being like, it's like, no, he would only allow it to leave if he wrapped it himself, and he was going to be in the
Mm-hmm.
front seat. He was going to be accompanying the mission. And I love that at the end of it, he was like, because he speaks like a local, and he was just distracting them enough in
Yeah.
Turkish to be like, "What are you doing? Get out of here!" Like,
I loved writing Banks. I really the main source of comedy in these books is definitely Saffron's roommate Elizabeth, and she's obviously not in this
I
book, and
know
so
she did refer to her a lot. Yeah,
I had to bring somebody in to bring some humor. And Banks definitely is just he's also just a big nerd. One of the things I love about writing these books is I get to just poke fun at nerds all the time because
it's
if
also
they're
because
not,
like you're a nerd yourself because you're
I'm
writing
such a
books and
big
you're
nerd.
doing research and you're like getting like a little giddy and exciting and the thrill out of it. And I'm a
It's very
self-proclaimed
silly.
nerd too. Obviously, I read like I
Yeah,
eat books like strawberries and I get excited about the content. So yeah, no, you're in good
yeah,
company, but that's so funny
yeah.
that you're
But
like poking
I
fun.
loved getting to like make this new academic and like find what he was really like excited about, and then like use it in the plot. That was not the plan, but as I'm writing it, I'm like, he would lose his mind. Okay, let's put Banks in there. Great.
Yeah. Like if he had a whiff of this was happening, he would
Yeah.
be like, absolutely not. What are you doing? This is the worst plan ever. I am going with. And then he like, when the second of danger that happens, he's like, are you kidding? He just gets
He's just out there swearing to them.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. We talked a lot about kind of nerdy stuff, so I do want to get to some fun stuff. So what were the most, I'm going to throw this at you. What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
The most challenging part to write was it's not that it was hard to write, but it was the editing was hard. Was midway through the book, Saffron and Banks take a little field trip to chase down a clue. And that was added in like the final round of edits. That was not in the original part, but I'm like, I need like something more. I need like
Yeah.
something fun and interesting for Saffron to go and do before she gets locked up. Because I was like, she doesn't do enough sleuthing, and before she gets locked up, so that was like, I think I extended my deadline to put that in because
Yeah.
the book wasn't feeling right. I wasn't happy with
I
it, and
do feel
so
like that was very important because it was like, yeah, she gets to do it and she gets to do it like without Alexander.
yeah.
And it
And
also
she
was
gets to be
like,
buddies with Banks. I love Banks.
yeah,
I
like
wanna write him in all the books now.
you should write like maybe I would say if you wanted to do some spin-offs that could be like your guy.
Could
Um
be.
but also it also showed a different side of like girl power, like the women looking out for women. Like cuz there was such a language barrier and cuz this is like when Saffron she's like leading cuz Banks is like I don't think it would be good for you to come in with me
Yeah.
into the
So
bathhouse. Yeah.
they go to a bathhouse, to chase down, like, a suspect, and obviously, like, Saffron can't go into the male side of the bathhouse, and so she's just sitting there being bored and ends up being invited into the bathhouse by one of just, like, a local woman, and they struggle to communicate. But she ends up having a great time in the bathhouse with the
Because they're like, "Oh,
ladies.
your ankle," and then they're like, "Yeah, just take off your clothes and get in." And
Yeah,
she's
get
just like
naked and
like
come fix your ankle. What are you doing? But I'm also really glad that ended up in there for that reason of like establishing some more vibes with the setting and like really exploring a little bit more of like the culture. So my husband's family is Iranian. So they're not Turkish, not the same thing. I'm not saying that they're the same thing, but they're from the same region of the world and like
a lot of the customs
hospitality.
maybe are the same.
Yeah, they have a lot in common. They have a lot in common. The hospitality and just like the complete openness and kindness to total strangers was something that I love and admire so much about what I experienced of Turkish culture and my husband's family. Just like the most welcoming, generous people. And so I'm glad that ended up getting in the book because that's always
It
been my
definitely gave more
experience.
insight and also yeah, absolutely, where it's this is a situation that you were able to show that through. And because it's like, oh, it's like a pregnant woman. And it's like for me, like I love traveling and I love exploring cities, but it's like even if I could do my best to like learn the language, but even in like a situation like that, I might be like pulling a Saffron and just being like and just trying to like pick up like social cues. And but no, I think that was really important. I'm glad that made it into okay, so for these next questions, thinking of Saffron Alexander, Clark, and Martin Neal, who would win a Hot Wings contest? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yes. My inclination is
Or
if
who would make the farthest? Like, and then
any
with the rank.
contest, Alexander is going to win. He's super competitive. There's a joke in the fourth book, A Botanist's Guide to Rituals and Revenge, where Saffron is asking him to lose on purpose to her cousin to like make nice with him. And he's like, I don't lose. And she's like, you don't lose. And she like, really like ribs him for it. But yeah, he's super competitive and really good at everything. So probably Alexander.
Even
But
if he was
Clark,
suffering, he would go. He would
yeah,
win.
Clark would also like bend over backwards to try to win and show everybody else up. So even if he ended up puking his guts out, Clark would probably do his best to win.
Yeah,
Saffron would be out immediately. So would Martin.
they'd be like, I'm not made. I'm not built for these spices. I'm not.
Yeah, they're so white and so British.
I know because I'm half Mexican and half Irish, and I've been in Mexico like a bunch of times because I have family still down there. But then I took my parents to Ireland, and it was the first time I was trying like UK food, Ireland food,
Mhm.
and it was like such a difference, and it was so funny because
Yeah,
it's
between
basically
Mexico.
it's like fish and chips, shepherd's pie, maybe oysters or mussels, like a lot of seafood. But then it's just like what I grew up on versus going to another country and just like a part of my homeland. It was just like
Mhm.
that half of me was like a little bit like judging the other half of me. So it's like,
Wow.
no, yeah, I get it. I get it where they're just like, nope, I do not have anything to prove. I'm good. Meanwhile, Clark and Alexander are like, no, like, let's do this. So those same four people, let's see, with any of your characters, and
Okay.
even maybe in any of the five books in this series, which character would you go to if you needed to plan a party?
Oh, plan a party. It would definitely be out of the people in book 5, it would be Mrs. Henry, who is the wife of the expedition leader. And she's just like, she's a bad bitch, man.
She
She is like cool and confident and poised, and like she can talk
she
to
gives the knowing
anybody.
smiles, like she
Yes, she could do anything. What I think I posted online one time, I'm like, if only Mrs. Henry had been in charge of the expedition, none of this
Oh
would have
my
happened. Nobody
god.
would have died. Nothing would have gone
She would
missing.
have whipped
Nobody
them
would be
into
arrested.
shape. Clark would not have even tried to do anything.
Yeah,
Like or maybe he would have tried, but she would have caught on very quickly.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
But in the whole series, it would be Elizabeth. Elizabeth is Saffron's best friend. She's like a gourmand. She is like an obsessive cleaner. She's the hostess with the mostest.
See, that's why I was like, I feel like I got a little robbed out of Elizabeth in book 5 because what I was reading, excuse me, was Saffron was definitely missing her bestie. She was
Yeah.
missing her bestie. And she
Yeah.
was like, I wish she was here to like help me with all this bullshit I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Same kind of line of questioning. Which character would you go to prep for a first date?
Oh, to prep for a first date. Oh my gosh. Like I'm going on a first date and I'm like nervous or I want advice or
Yeah, maybe
something.
you want like advice, or maybe you want like say, hey, what should I wear? Maybe you're just wanting like a pep talk, stuff like that.
Probably Saffron because she's just like really like unbridled enthusiasm and she would like hype you up without making you nervous because everyone else, like Alexander would try too seriously to like help you and end up making you nervous. Elizabeth is like, whatever, darling, like you're fabulous. And then she'd like peck you on the cheek and send you out the
Yeah.
door and you wouldn't feel any better.
You're
And then
like, wait, that's not helpful.
yeah, Lee is our other, like, he's one of the gang. Lee is a Leo and flirts like he's breathing. So like he would think he would give great advice, but really like he would just confuse you. And probably be like, we should go on a date instead. Why are we going with them? So he would be fun, but
I
I
love
wouldn't go to
that.
him for advice.
It's like maybe all three of them, and you'd be like, let's see if I could filter the good advice out of all of them. Like,
No, they would be such chaos.
and then again, which character would you go to if you had to hide a body?
Oh, hide a body. Ooh. They all have such potential. I think if I wanted like Elizabeth is like ride or die, right? She doesn't bring much expertise, but she brings enthusiasm and loyalty and passion. So she would definitely help you for sure. Saffron and Lee is a doctor, so he has much expertise and Saffron knows a lot about, I don't know, she could probably feed the body to like a fungus or something. But out of all of them, Alexander is the most competent. And I think when hiding a body, you want competence.
No,
He's
that's
also a
true.
bacteriologist. I can't
Yeah.
say it. He studies bacteria.
Yeah.
So he would know plenty about decomposition.
Yeah, we got a little snippet of that where he was like, "Oh, I gotta wash my hands."
Yes. He definitely leans into his knowledge and judges everyone else for being gross.
Yeah. I guess I feel like just based on what I know about Alexander of just reading him and talking to you, I feel like if I started from book one, I would have a full on crush on him. Like he sounds right up my alley. Like you said, nerd with maybe some he's mysterious in a way.
He is. He's quite enigmatic. That's the word that I used to describe him in book one. And by this point, I just finished writing the first draft of book 6. And he is full out living his best life in this book.
He's like Mrs. Ashton.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
I love that little saucy part of him too, where he was like, oh, like what, like he notices like the looks she's giving him, or he picks up on like what she's feeling, and I love that. I'm just like a sucker for romance, and I do appreciate like on page things or like open door things.
Mhm.
So I love it when it's just like these Regency style, like where it's like, oh no, but they still like you're still human and they still have desire, and they're just
Yeah.
like how do they express desire? How do they express their lust? You know what I mean? I think it's so
Yeah.
fun.
I'm a big romance reader and love romance of any door open or shutness. And these books have a lot of smooching, but not much else.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, I feel bad 'cause, like, I love Saffron and Alexander and I want them to be happy, but maybe not on the page.
You kind of like want them to get theirs, but you're like, does this feed the narrative?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I
I
get
could
that.
make these books twice as long if that wasn't a consideration.
If you were just straight up like, no, like let's see what they got. Let's see what they got going on. I thought just
Yeah,
thought it was so funny where
make them smutty. I would be here for it.
because they're like you definitely hint that they have desire for each other, and they're
Oh,
like
yeah.
fighting the propriety of it all. Like because I love
Alexander is. Saffron is like, "I don't care. Come to my room."
but even at the end though, where she was like, everybody's gonna know. Like
Yeah, like, can you imagine that? Can you imagine this entire crew of jerks knowing that it's your wedding night? That would be
I would
awful.
say even then I would be like making Alexander seem like a god, like a sex god. I would be loud on purpose, and I would be like, "I'm having the best night of my life. Fuck you."
No, but that's the thing,
Oh,
right?
but
Is
they would
that like
find some way to ridicule, like
Alexander would be fine. He's been fine this whole time. It's such a huge double standard, is that like everybody knows that they are together. They are engaged, like publicly everybody knows that. And then these guys are like giving Saffron such a hard time. And not all of them. Some of them just ignore her. But there is like a handful of these guys who do respect Alexander and they are just horrible to her. So yeah, they would totally find a way to be mean about it
to
and
give
to
her a
say
hard time
nasty
about
things.
any vocal
Yeah, any
pleasure.
vocalizations.
Yeah, but even then, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like I have the advantage of being born and raised in these times, but I'm like, that's why I was like, Saffron, shut the fuck up. Like, stop engaging with him. Stop
Mhm.
talking to him. Just walk away. Just ignore him. Stop giving him ammo. And then, but she's just like, she was still talking. And it was just like, I feel like I would have learned my lesson by then, but I could totally see where she's still thinking like, okay, I have to stand up to myself, stand up for myself. I have to still like hold my position amongst this crew,
Mm.
and in the field and everything. So I don't that yeah, that's stuff that I don't know about, and so that's why I was like, no, fuck him, because you were going off the context of the time. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's where it's like that's the other end of the spectrum where like, oh, you're living vicariously through your characters. Maybe it's fun to have them say or do things that maybe you wouldn't do, but then it's like that's the opposite of that, right? Okay, so Kate Khavari, what are you working on? Or I guess, yeah, what can we expect from book 6 if you're allowed to talk about it?
Book 6 will see Saffron back in London. She'll be back at the university. And the day that she arrives back at the university, the chemistry hall on campus explodes. And it unleashes just like this crazy mystery that is threatening not only her career, but like the lives of like, multiple other people on campus, including a young Indian student, a young woman she's been mentoring. And so it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be like classic Saffron of like going back to being at the university on the campus. Book 5 is set in Turkey. Book 4 is mostly takes place at Saffron's childhood home. So this is us like coming back around, like full circle back to the
Well,
university.
kind of if we want to be spoiler friendly, it's following what she finds out at the end of book 5. And I guess
Yes.
I'm assuming that's where she's going back to go the aftermath of that.
Yeah, she's dealing with that and also the aftermath of what has happened in Turkey because stuff does not go right when she's on her expedition. So that is book 6. It also is going to be coming out in a year. They're always like one a year. So I have the next 6 months to make it good because first drafts are always hot garbage.
First drafts, the purpose is to be a first draft.
Yes, nothing else.
Just like that's what I've learned from speaking to like however many of you talented people. We're just like, just don't worry, the first draft is the first draft. That's
More
its
like
purpose.
delusional people. I feel like there's much delusion happening, especially with me. I'm like, it's done. I feel great. There's so much work left to be done.
Yeah,
But
where you're like,
so
look at you said it to your editor and you're, oh, how did you like this part? Like, how did you like this
yeah.
part?
No,
You're
I
like,
literally say this is hot garbage. I'm so sorry. And they're always really nice, and they're like,
and
it's
they
not
tell you
hot
like, no,
garbage.
you're a boss ass bitch. Like what?
Not in so many words. I would love to hear my editor say that for sure. That would be great. And in addition to the Saffron books, I'm also working on a alternative history fantasy that is coincidentally also set in the 1920s because if there's one thing I love, it's the 1920s and exploring like the aftermath of instead of World War One, it is a magical conflict that kind of takes the place of World War One in history and changes the world. So that's
Nice.
really exciting and fun. So that's what I'm
Oh my
working on
god,
now.
yeah, I imagine you had so much fun playing around with that.
Yes, because it's
Yeah.
research, but also making stuff up.
Yeah.
This is
I
why we
love
love
that.
fantasy.
I love that sentence. You're like, it's a research, but it's also making stuff up. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can we find you online and on social media?
I am very active on Instagram and on Threads. Both are at author Kate Khavari. And then I also do a monthly newsletter that I love for people to join because it is not only updates about my writing and my books, but lots of giveaways. You can see I have many books on my shelves. I love to give them away. I do author interviews and giveaways of like my friends and their books that are coming out, and like bonus content, tour dates, and I always give a lot of book recommendations because I'm always reading and I love to
Perfect.
share. So find me online. I'm there way too much.
I know, as are we all. We are at the mercy of our
The
attention span,
algorithm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the algorithm, exactly. Another thing that we could go on a tangent on if we had more
Oh my
time.
gosh, yes.
Kate Khavari, A Botanist's Guide to Tradition and Treachery. That's the fifth. That's book number 5. So, what is book number 1 where we should start off at?
As you mentioned, and I'm so glad to hear that you could get along just fine reading it from book 5. Book 5, Tradition and Treachery, can be read as a standalone. The other ones, I definitely recommend that you read them in order because there's like a bigger overarching plot that gets resolved in book 4. So start with A Botanist's Guide to Parties and Poisons. That's the first book. She's very beautiful. She looks
I
like
love all
this.
the covers.
I know, I got really lucky. So this is the first book. And then this is book number 5, A Botanist's Guide to Tradition and Treachery. So
I think that really was like what made me check and be like, okay, this is book 5. Can I read it without reading the first 4? Because it was the cover. I think that was what kind of got me really like,
I am unapologetically the biggest fangirl of my covers. And I'm like, people
oh,
come up to me and say, I bought your book because it's so pretty. And I'm like, that
yeah,
is fine.
that is,
Good.
yeah, no,
It's
you need
gorgeous.
to be your biggest cheerleader. And especially with, like, I do judge a book by its cover.
Mm,
I think a lot of us do, right? Like, and
absolutely.
it's like if I walk in the bookstore and I see that and I kind of like read the background, I'm like, oh, okay. And I would have asked for a physical copy if I had the first 4. But like honestly, either I'm gonna just buy all 5 just for shelf trophies,
Mhm.
or like if you ever make your way to Chicago, or if I ever make my way to a book event where you're also gonna be at, I will be like buying all 5. So,
Yes.
and I'll be like, sign all of them. You're gonna be added to the book, the shelf trophies for sure. Yes, and okay, going off of that, Botanist Guide to Everything. Look at your website, I'm guessing, or you could find it on any like bookseller
Yeah, if you
to
type into Google A Botanist Guide, then the books will pop up.
or we type your name in, Kate Khavari with an H.
Yeah, Kate Khavari, don't
With
forget
a
the H,
KH.
except also ignore the H.
The H is
All
silent.
the time, the H really throws people off. Just pretend the H isn't there unless you're spelling it.
There you go. Yeah, I figured it was Khavari, but I was just like, there's just certain things where I'm like, no, just please pronounce it for me. Okay, so Botanist Guide to Tradition and Treachery, that comes out on June 9th. As we said before, you could pick up the first 4, but if you just want to check out this one, you'll be good. You're good. You'll be fine. It'll be just as entertaining and just as engaging. Kate, thank you so much for meeting with me, for being flexible. And if and when you're ready to talk about book 6 or anything else that you non Saffron Everleigh that you have going on, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat again.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.
And there you go. That was Kate Khavari talking about her book, A Botanist's Guide to Tradition and Treachery. That's the 5th installment in Kate's Saffron Everleigh Mysteries series, but it can be read as a standalone. Check out the show notes to see links where you can find Kate online on social media and where to purchase the book. In the show notes, you'll also see where to find Cantina Book Club, your favorite social media book communities, such as Bookstagram, Book Talk, BookTube, Threads, Facebook, and more. And I would love and appreciate it if you can hit that like or follow or subscribe button so that you never miss out on book reviews and author interviews. If you have any book-loving friends who want more out of their reading lists, please share Cantina Book Club with them so that they can find upcoming releases and interviews with authors. Another way to help this podcast is to head on over to your favorite podcast player and give Cantina Book Club a rating review. And it helps me reach more potential listeners and fellow book lovers like you. And that goes for any podcast that you listen to. It's one of the easiest ways to help out. If you need book recommendations, you can reach out to me. I'm always excited to share any suggestions I might have, recent favorites. Or you could go to the website, cantinabookclub.com, and read more in-depth book reviews. You can search by genre or type in an author name, and you can find what you're looking for. And while you're at it, you could subscribe by filling out the form online and get new reviews and episodes delivered directly to your inbox. If you want to support Cantina Book Club even more, you could donate by finding the form on the website, whether it's a one-time donation or as little as $1 a month. I seriously super appreciate it, and will share my appreciation by giving you a shout out on the show and sending you a little something special. And finally, one of the best ways to help authors promote their work is to head on over to Amazon or Goodreads or Storygraph, wherever you rate and review books. Please do that for any author that you love, any book that you love. It helps them expand their outreach and get in front of more readers. And as always, thanks so much for listening, and see you next time. Cheers.